As we get to explore on a few different levels today, that as you hear the words that are coming, that these words that are coming are merely to help us fill in the puzzle pieces, the things that already feel familiar to us, the things that we already know. But today, as we explore the constellation of Taurus and specifically the Pleiades, that you allow your heart to open to any of the energy that you've been holding in your cellular tissues or your cellular memories, and that what we want to do is let go of any of the miasma, the pain, the hurt, the trauma, so that we can reinstate the divinity of this aspect of our divine body. The Pleiades is part of our universal body, so we get to reinstate it again. The Pleiades is a group of more than 800 stars. So being that it's actually quite close, it's only 410 light years from Earth, but it has more than 800 stars. So even though we predominantly focus on the 7 sisters, the 7 primary energies of the Pleiades, there are many, many, many inhabited planets, moons, different aspects of the Pleiades that are inhabited by different races. There are so much diverse life and different races and species there. So we're going to just kind of explore a little bit of this. I will tell you the Pleiades is one of the places where I have met the most mermaid people. But with this, and I will actually come back to our energy update. I'm going to finish our evening with that. I'll come back to that. Let's just play a little bit. So in the Egyptian mythology, Hathor is called one of the celestial mothers, the celestial cow. Now, there is a lot of different ideologies or thoughts as to why one would be called a cow. Remember, the Pleiades is in Taurus, the constellation of Taurus, which is the bull. And the Hathors were a priestess lineage that taught different planetary systems. They would travel to different planetary systems in order to guide, to direct, to reinstate, or not even just to reinstate, but to actually hold the sacred lineages and the sacred teachings, so that there was universal divine teachings across the universe. So within the universe, that we know that there is a base energy that we all harmonize with, which is based in love, which is based in the law of one. It's based in natural law and divine order. It's based in the mergings and the full balance of the light and the dark, that they both are divine when used in harmony with the intentions infused with love. So it is a sacred ritual, it is sacred practices, it is the sacred teachings of the dark stars. Now, when I get to go deeper into who are the dark stars and what are the dark stars, we're going to actually realize that the dark stars are when one has come and returned all the way back home to source. So you could realize that we are on an ascension path, that you could say that we have traveled all the way down into density, and from density that we would do the step back or the return back to source path, and that when we get to this density, we've reached as far as we want to go, however dense we've gone, and then we start awakening in our soul to turn around and return back to source. Now, when we do this in-breath, out-breath of the universe, what is happening is our experiences out into density create conscious memories, create experiences, create learning, create a better understanding of how the universe works and how we all co-create and interrelate with each other. So we don't just come back the same as we were. We come back as an evolved and an evolving consciousness and being, all the way returning back up the density levels and back, returning to where you would become a solar body or a planetary body of consciousness again. So think of a star, the dark stars. When you start to return back to God's source light, if you will, you start to drop density, drop it, drop it, drop it, drop it. So as you hear that, remember, we have that safe transit portal going. Keep allowing yourself to let everything go, let everything go. Drop it, drop it, drop it. We drop the density, and eventually we come face to face to the light, which then merges with the womb or the dark, what you might even call a black hole, but really it is the womb of no thing. We return to the 0 point field where there is no light and there is no dark, so to speak. There is no thing, and it becomes like a dark star, which is a womb. So it is actually an honorary initiatory path to go out into creation and then return all the way back with your consciousness to become what would be considered an ascended master within the Rishik solar sun realms, to where you could become a dark star and birth a new creation from you, from your womb of no thing. So these teachings of these priestesses, the seven sisters, the Hathors, a lot of the teachings of the Pleiades, which then translated into the Atlantean teachings, which translated into the Kemetan or Egyptian teachings, are all stemming from these base rituals, but we know that they have been a little distorted as the times and the lineages have gone on. But at the core and at the source, these were all meant to honor the divine mother, which is our universe, and return and realize that we hold the light and the dark as one. So when we hold this, we become pre-matter beings, no form, and therefore we would become even above, but what the Christi or the Christ consciousness beings are, which are beings who can hold that level of merging the light and the dark with no polarity. And then they are usually the teachers that come into incarnation to be able to infuse new light. So this is where Christ does become a good example for us, because it's talk about beings who come, who are totally different than everyone else, but they come to hold new messages, new light, new teachings, infuse it in, and then they leave. But they never for a moment had doubt of who they were. That is the level of consciousness that we're returning back up into. We know who we are. So as we work with the Pleiadian energy, one of the images I want to show you is the Temple of Dendera, mainly because this is really one of the core teachings that the Hathors brought to us was astrology, astronomy, the teaching of the stars, the teaching of our celestial body. They were the celestial mothers, the celestial cows. They were the celestial beings that held the wisdom of the universe. And as they went and they taught it, they had their tools that could infuse into cultures to help cultures then learn the sacred arts. And one of the bases of this was astrology. Why? Because it's about the alignment of the stars, that no matter where, humanity wants to go with the idea of astrology, the truth is astrology is the mathematics. It's the sacred geometry of the universe. It's the mathematics of the universe. It's the energy of how the stargates open. It's the energy of the cycles of the universe. And so when we learn these cycles, we know how to work with them. We know when things open. We know who we are connected to. We know when to travel places. We know. So therefore, within it, you also know where you are from. You know your blueprint. You know where your energy is connected and the soul's path that you've been leading. So as we look at this, I just want to tie in, this is also where I believe the human design system has actually come from. And we are still currently in the quarter of initiation. We will be in it until about the halfway point of Taurus. And what this quarter of initiation is it's aligning fully with the realm of Alcyone, which is one of our planetary systems within the Pleiades. And this is really the energy. So if you can understand the cycle of humanity as it moves through evolution, starts with Alcyone. Alcyone is a solar body, if you will. It's a star that is so luminescent and bright that it is connected to the earth, and they have a binary cycle with each other. So the influence of Alcyone on earth is tremendous. Now I want to tie one more thing in here that the slide's not going to come for a bit, but that Alcyone is where Tara in the second harmonic universe exists. So when we talk a lot about the Atlantean histories and the pre-Atlantean, so Atlantis, there was at least 3 other Atlantises. There wasn't just one Atlantis. We have gone through multiple seedings of humanity, and there are multiple cataclysms that have happened. So the Atlantis that most of the times we're talking about actually wasn't here on Earth. Most of our history we connect with was in the second harmonic universe. So second harmonic universe, Earth, is Tara in Alcyone. So it was connected with Maldek there and that planet that got exploded, and therefore that planetary body is what has created our entire solar system here. And what we, part of our body, is comprised of. So we are, in so many ways, this is how there are so many Pleiadian connections with so many souls on this planet, is because many of us are healing the wounds of that cataclysm that happened in the second harmonic universe. Now, when we look at it from human design, in human design, what is happening is that the initiation starts with Alcyone, and we move through. This is kind of the witness or the birthing of our personality crystal, or the soul, when the soul returns to Earth. And then it starts to bring renewal of evolution of consciousness through thoughts, through purpose of mind, through thinking, through educating, through conceptualizing and explaining and sharing what it means to be alive in a form. So this really is just another layer to share with you why it's important to know our chart, why it's important to know what's being activated, why it's important to have our star charts, our soul charts, to know these things, because they're not just some cool thing. They truly are the ancient teachings, the ancient ways that we actually knew ourselves and knew who we were, knew where we had been, and knew where we are going. So therefore, we can start to have more respect and actually venerate more a lot of these ancient practices that modern society has just kind of brushed off as whatever. And now we are starting to bring the sacredness back into many of the sciences that were not taken seriously for a very long time. And here we are getting to go like, oh my gosh, this really is something that is opening up and allowing us to most specifically know your DNA, what's being activated in you. So this is something we'll continually touch on, because at a core level, our body is a biocomputer. So therefore, even though we're in physical form, why do we feel good one day and not so good the next day? There's a lot of reasons why. Yes, there's things happening on the planet, but there's also celestial bodies that are moving. There's other influences. There's things that are turning our DNA on and off continually within us. So when we start to learn our star charts, we actually start to go, oh, okay, I know this is coming. I can prepare for this. I know for this. I know what ritual. I know what clearing. I know what I can do to heal it. So now they're inviting again, open all your cells and open all your DNAs to wherever you've been holding any shadow form within your body, that you can let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. So this is just something from the Ascension glossary. And we're just going to get an understanding of some of the different influences of the Pleiades through history, so you can get a feeling of where maybe your tie-ins in with this constellation and the system has been for you. So the Pleiadians, also known as Nordic aliens, They're humanoid extraterrestrials that come from the stellar system surrounding the Pleiades stars in the second harmonic universe. There's both benevolent and negative beings in the Pleiadian system, and they are primarily gatekeepers of the 5D timelines, so the fifth dimensional timelines. Most of the benevolent Pleiadian groups have a strict non-interference policy with Earthlings as the result of the consequences of inadvertently contributing to mass upheavals on the Earth's surface that were not intended, and this is not then helping the spiritual progression or consciousness growth of Earth humans. Due to these destructive events occurring in the previous timelines, all interactions with Earth people are strictly monitored, as the consequences of these previous interactions had generated karmic bonds in which certain groups were not able to evolve any further as a result of these previous events that resulted in destructive timelines. Of the humanoid types of Pleiadians, they appear very similar to Earth humans, but have different variations of height, hair, and eye color. So just to know, there is karmic implications anytime we entangle with anything or anyone. Therefore, this is why it's really beneficial if we have a quarrel with someone that we want to clear it up and clean it up as quick as possible. That to die in battle in anger with someone karmically binds you to that person. Therefore, you will more than likely incarnate in one way or another with that being again, and usually in a closer, tighter knit relationship, such as family or a lover. So when they talk about the karmic tie-ins with these things, this is going back really far in time. This is going back millions of years to many of the electric wars, were some of the initial places that these things were starting. But through there was the wars, the Lemurian and the Atlantean, so the second harmonic universe. There was wars in the third harmonic universe that translated down into the second harmonic universe, which created the fall and the density level that we now exist in this first harmonic universe. So many of the benevolent races immediately withdrew out of the solar system completely. But those that remained, we're going to get to know them a little better this evening. We know them as the On family. So I just have some pictures here. I highly recommend to each and every one of you, if you want to know the timeline in history of Earth post the Atlantean Holocaust, and specifically into the Luciferian rebellion times. So we're talking 50,000 BC, all the way to like 25,500 BC, that we're going to look at a lot of the refugee races. So there was influence from many, many star systems here on Earth, because Earth was like a nursery, but it was very benevolent, it was harmonious, there was seeding of Earth races and different things that were happening here. But through the battles of Tiamat, the battles that were happening against the mother, if you will, and the matriarchy in the universe, these battles stranded some of the On family here, which are Gina'abul, which are lizard or reptilian-like beings. Now, I want to very specifically let each and every one of you know that the majority of the Gina'abul family is actually benevolent. They are not intending ill will or harm, and they are actually such a mixed race that they are affiliated with the Syrian races. They're mixed with the Lyran races as the Irma, which are the feline warriors. They are part of many of the races through the Pleiades and all of these different star systems, because the dragon mother, so even though we think of draconians as negative when we go to the very high vibratory places, we have the solar dragons, we have the rainbow dragons, we have the dragon lineages. So they kind of are descendants of the royalty and the royal lines of the pure essence of these lines of the dragon and also the snake people. So they're just one of the genetic lines that was created in the universe. Through many of the wars, then the digression started to happen. Primarily, I'm going to show you the picture on the right over here, and this is Ansar. This is Ans. When you think of the Anunnaki, the An family, Anu, this would be the creator of An. So you can see this is actually right around the time that distortion really started to happen. If you actually look over on the left-hand side over here, we have Nurea, Mamitu, or what we might call one of the divine mothers. She's actually a reincarnation of Barbelo and Pistis Sophia and a very sacred divine lineage back. These, if you could say, with her, Namu, would be affiliated with the Hathors in a particular lineage way. Now, Sa'am was also known as Enki. So I want to just show him because he is what we might look at as one of the hybrid races. He had a mix of Abgal, which is the amphibian races of the Sirius star system. He had the Gina'abul race within him, and he was a cloned being. He was created genetically by An in order to serve a purpose within the universe. But Namu had put particular genes inside of him that he's actually a reincarnation of some other being, where if you read the books, he's definitely someone who came to really bring probably more good to the universe, but he lived his life still trying to abide by the royal family rules. Now, as we look through history, we're going to see that the universe has been one big family cat fight. So this is pretty much predominantly the beginning of what we would start to call the Luciferian rebellion. So if I had to say there was going to be a grandfather of the Luciferian rebellion, it would be right here with Ansar. So I just want to show this, but he's with the Girku crystal, which we've talked before about the emerald crystal from the Sirius system that held the records. We talk also about the CDT plates, the Emerald Covenant. We talk about these CDT plates are these crystals that hold the memories and the records of the divine beings, the Elohim races, the Elohai, Elohim, and the races that have been assisting humanity into retrieving and restoring the souls back home. So whatever forms we've ever taken throughout the universe, it's really important for us to actually go into our DNA, go into our genealogy and feel it all out and realize where it's all coming from, because on some level you're going to see that these beings, even though they look like an alien race, which you would say, you're going to see that within one generation, they basically look human. You would not tell them apart from another being on the planet. So these would be the forefathers of the ruling classes that has been causing so much of the distortion on the planet. Now, I don't have an image today to show you of Enlil, but Enlil is primarily who you would refer to as Satan, the Satan, which meant the Lord or the ruler of the earth, was Satan, which is Satan. And that is the true narcissistic being of the family, which was actually a clone that Enki created, that I know at his very dying day, he wondered why the hell he let him live. I too wonder why the hell he let him live, because that Enlil is really one of the huge reasons we've had so much of the problems on this planet and the lineages that have gone from there. So if you've listened to Kim Gogan and her work and how she talks about Marduk was the last ruler of Earth before she took the seat, Marduk was the son of Enki, right here, Siam. And Marduk definitely was abiding by the family rules and the family archetypes and lineage. So let's talk about how they've been affiliated with a lot of the different lineages on Earth that we revere and respect, like the Indigenous tribes and the Native Americans and all of the Native caretakers and keepers of the land. So this is actually a passage from the latest book from Anton Parks. And this passage talks about, it's actually a message from the Girku crystal. And it says, I have always kept the creation of the Cinnamon people a secret. So those are the Native Americans. My mother and I are solely responsible for it. So that's Namu, right here on the left, and Enki. Created Native American races, so different tribal beings that we see on the planet. Many of them were actually created in the Pleiades system. So my mother and I are solely responsible for it. Namu originally created them in the Adala system in ancient times, and they were then moved to the star Maya. So Maya is one of the seven sisters in the Pleiades. This is a prototype which included about 10 individuals and which has a genotype similar to that of the Abuki, which was the Neanderthal. Their understanding is famous and more alert than that of their cousins and from the African region. Their pigmentation is lighter than that of their cousins and is closer to the sun than their home planet Adala in the Taygeta star system. Namu and I modified these prototypes. So basically, these prototypes were created in the Pleiades system. So they created different races. We've talked many times about how races are created throughout the universe through genetics, through almost as if, this is kind of a crude analogy, but think about how many dog breeds there are on Earth, and it is because people are tinkering with the genome of the canine family, right? Our genome is no different. The Lyran and the angelic genome has been tinkered with. So the Gina'abul, so the reptilian race, the sacred reptilian race, the pure lineages were tinkered with, and many different forms came out of that. The feline race, the Syrian race, all of these started to mutate, and each time a new planet was inhabited, many times there was either commingling in order to allow the genetics to thrive on that new star system, or new races were created. Well, Earth is kind of one of those places that has been like a living library. Therefore, they created many times races to thrive here and also to be the protectors and the gatekeepers of the Earth, of the sacred stargates and things like that. So why I say this is because if you talk to most Indigenous people, they're very tied to the land and they know what star system they've come from. And they also know what their purpose is as far as their caretaking of the land, the gatekeepers of the land. So let's keep going. So this is actually a quote from White Bear from the Hopi Indians. It says, towards the end of the third world, there was a woman as supreme leader in Atlantis. In our language, we called her Kinkamungwiti, a supreme priestess. In your eyes, she would have been simply a queen. She was a very powerful and a very beautiful woman. She used her power and the beauty of her body to subdue the leaders of her people. She received so many jewels from them that we called her the turquoise woman. Atlantis extended its influence and subjugated peoples in the countries that lay furthest to the east, which we now call Europe and Africa. Although Atlantis was a small country, it had a big influence. So when we look at this, we're actually hearing in this moment that they're referring to this Gina'abul race, these Anu family beings that were creating the races on the planet and they were ruling. So again, it's quite a family history to actually hear the beginning of Atlantis here on this first harmonic universe of Earth, how it was created through Enki, and how it was shifted over to power to some of the, even one of them was the daughter of Enlil. So there's just all of these different influences on the planet that when we think of Atlantis and when we think of Lemuria and of Egypt, we can't really think of it in human terms. This is really when a lot of the genetics and the manipulation and the seedings were taking a lot of shifts, and a lot of this was due to the battles for the land. This really starting 25,500 years ago, the Luciferian rebellion was pretty much a blood battle between brothers, if you will, which was really a father and a son for rulership of Earth and for the domination and control over this planetary body, who was going to be the dominant one. Now, Enlil, which was Satan, which we could call Satan, was a narcissist, and he influenced a lot of the Yahweh religions. So when you think of Yahweh, this is really the energy that we're talking about, is Enlil. And Enki, even though he made a lot of horrible choices, really did have a spot in his heart where he really did care for the people, for his creations, and for humanity. But he is not the supreme creator. He is not God. He is just one of the beings that had influence over planet Earth. And there have been beings far before him that ever had influence here. I do want to show, this is the blue star Kachina. So if you do end up in Arizona and you connect, we do have a medicine wheel that some of us got to create together up on the sacred mountain, the San Francisco mountains there, and we got to connect with the sacred Kachina land, which is the sacred Hopi land there that honors these star races, star nations, and star beings. So we do have a connection with our group there. So basically, many of the indigenous peoples of Earth are direct transplants from other star systems. And as we start to know that they hold a knowledge that they are star seeds, they hold the light, and they hold these in their legends. So many of them, like it's saying here, that the Cherokee Indians, as well as other Native Americans, have Pleiadian genes, and they know that. So we could probably spend a whole night talking about all the different races on the planet that know. Now I'm going to breeze through this. This is from the Keylontic Sciences, and this is just talking about the Signet Council 5. I'm picking Signet Council 5 because, again, this is the stargate in the system for Alcyone, which is the higher universe place of version of Earth, and it's in the Pleiades. So who are these guardians? Well, the Emerald Order, Aeoni priests of Ur, the Anahazi, feline humanoids. We have the Gold Order, Seraphi, Seraphim, which are directly related with the dragon lineages. Think wings, dragons, think wings. We're going to see a lot of the draconian beings come from these lineages. And also all of these that we think of angelics are what we would call the Nungal, which are a race of beings that Enki created. So most angelics are actually beings that Enki created, that people are talking to. Now, there are other grid lines and other lines, but a lot of the beings that most people are referring to are them. So we have the Avian Oraphim Ceres. We have the Amethyst Order, the Braharama Cetaceans. So we have those amphibian beings, the Christic beings, as a governing body there. Now, I'm just going to skip down because there's a whole lot here, and you can always download this book from the website. But it says many of the Ruby Order Emerald Covenant defectors, including the Galactic Federation, the Ashtar Command, the Archangel Michael Matrix, the Anu Melchizedeks, and the Pleiadian Nibiruan Anunnaki, were responsible for manipulation and digression of the earthly angelic human lineage since 25,500 BC. So this is, again, the Luciferian rebellion that started, and this is all predominantly after the major wars in the second harmonic universe that made their way to Earth, where Earth became the stronghold that they were fighting for, and it became more of a family battle than anything. And the On family that was basically abandoned here was not highly revered in other planetary systems. So even when Enki wanted to go back to the Pleiades to find answers about things, he was okay. They let him be there for a minute, like basically told him, look for what you're looking for and go away. You're not welcome back here again. We do not welcome, because by the time all of these battles are happening, 25,500 BC, the Pleiades is already on a trajectory of going back into rehabilitation, into restoring divine order, to healing whatever the battles previous were. So this is where we hear a lot of times that, you know, the Pleiadians were where we are in prior times, and they have evolved beyond that and ascended beyond that. So this is where we could even connect with a lot of like the Tara energy, like green Tara, blue Tara, those Buddhist Taras, that when you connect with these energies, you can actually find wisdom because they went through the suffering and then they learned how to stop hurting themselves. So this is just something to kind of tie into more affiliation with the Pleiades. And this is also just when we go into meditation, when you have connection with other beings, you can see how the hybrids really start to work. You got Syrian beings here, but you can see the elongated skull that really comes from the Gina'abul lineage and lines. So most Syrians are part of the Gina'abul lineage. And the tall whites, the Nordics, when you look at all of these beings, they are descendants of these Gina'abul or dragon lineages. So we can sit in our heart and go like, oh yeah, Syrians, I was connecting with Syrians, I was connecting with this. Well, now there's kind of just another layer of understanding of going like, oh, okay, we get to heal all of it, because in so many ways we're part of all of it. We've been part of all this convolution that has happened. And so now they're saying, just imagine your transit a safe portal again, and just open it up in whatever places in your cellular memory that are coming to any understanding with any of this. Let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, that we get to heal all of this for whatever has ever happened, that we are here to reinstate the sacred lineages. So I do first want to bring image to the bottom middle, and this is Pistis. So Pistis Sophia, if you look at the Gnostic teachings, she was a predecessor to Barbella. They were basically the same reincarnate as Namu, which is the mother that I showed you earlier. They're all just reincarnated souls of the same being. And so in some ways, you could see this as the divine Sophia lineage, the Sophia dragon tribe. Now, Pistis was incredible. We're talking about divine royal races of beings that had prominence and structure within the universe, but there was many other races still at the same time. But we just kind of have a lot more of their descendants that are influencing our life currently. And over here on the right, I just wanted to show Queen Demej. You could almost see her as Lilith. So when we think of Lilith and that energy, she was one of the original. She was the daughter of Namu, but she was still holding a lot of the dragon lineage within her, and she lives within the lower realms, or within the inner earth here on Earth. So as you can see here, the top is Horus as a young boy. And over here, Anna, who was the granddaughter of Enlil, was actually kind of his nurse's maid. That's an odd, interesting thing. But just to kind of know, if you were to see these beings as they started to progress, incredibly, you would not know them any different. Think again, Paul White's, the Nordics, many of these beings have the same composure that we would really see within what we think of as our humanoid form, and remembering that a lot of the DNA on the planet and the bodies that we're in right now are the direct result of many of the tinkering with the genomes that Enlil did, and then later Marduk did with the planet. So let's just start to wrap this up a little bit. I just wanted to show again, here's our galactic chart. And as you can see, it's tied in throughout a large portion of the Milky Way galaxy. But most predominantly, I want to bring your attention to number 1. We have Earth. So as we move up, we can see that the sphere number 5 is Tara, which is right here, which is in Alcyone, the Pleiades. It was Maldek. It is now the asteroid belt, and it's also part of what we are a part of now in the solar system. And when we start to work with the next harmonic universe up of the Gaia timeline, when you hear of Earth as Gaia, this is within the 3rd harmonic universe. And this is going to be in Orion, Mintaka. So this is why it's so important to heal the Orion energy, because in truth, Orion, that constellation of Orion and many of the planetary bodies and races that have come from there are actually quite high vibratory beings now, because they've been doing the work for so long to clean up a lot of the timelines that have happened and originated from there. And this is when we've been working with our 8th chakra, the morphogenetic chakra, our thymus, and our higher heart. We're working with reconnecting the heart of Orion with the entire universe. So realize that this sphere right now where Gaia is the heart of the 12th dimensional sphere, the 12 tree grid of our 15-dimensional time matrix. And we are restoring all of that again by creating the benevolence back within it, that we get to feel where all the distortions have been, where maybe some of the timelines have changed, where maybe some of the beings have been self-serving in different lifetimes. For those of us that have had to live in families that have had distortions of things like narcissist energies and service to self beings, that a lot of this is giving us the opportunity to heal those genetics through the multiple timelines within it. And we don't need to make a big deal about it. We can actually just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go, and realize that whatever is coming up in our cellular tissues and memories is something that we get the opportunity to let go of. And we don't have to hang on to it, because we know we are so much more. We are existing in all of the spheres of this 15-dimensional time matrix, and therefore we can start to attune our consciousness to all of these levels and realize that this body is one of our aspects, one of our gifts, one of our tools for healing. So with that, just to know, with the 5D Earth, with the Tara timeline, that this is also connected with the halls of Amenti. So when we are connecting with the halls of Amenti, which are the stargates, which was helping to restore the body of this first harmonic universe so it could reconnect back again with the body of Mother, with the 2nd and 3rd harmonic universe. We got the halls of Amenti that are actually now housed here. So anything we're healing here, when we heal our heart, we're healing all of the reptilian invasion, so all of the An family energy, the Egyptian timelines, the Sphinx timelines. We're healing all of that collective race mind in the astral field. In the 5th, in the throat chakra, we're healing the Pleiadian. And as we move up into the 6th chakra and that 6th level in there, this is the Syrian energy, the Indigo family energy. This is where the Azurite line started to come in. The Azurite Melchizedek, the Emerald Order was really set into place within the Syrian and Pleiadian lineages here in the 2nd harmonic universe to really start helping to restore the timelines. So we had to incarnate into all of these different genetics and bloodlines in order to bring all of our soul parts back home. So that is the beauty of all of that energy in there.